Hi and welcome back to Bedecked in the Burbs. I'm Beck and today I'm going to be recapping my first of two videos about Milwaukee Fashion Week. As I'm recording, it is Friday, September 13th, Friday the 13th. And as of today, there are no Milwaukee Fashion Week events going on tonight, but I'm going to the High Fashion Showcase tomorrow and Fashion Fest on Sunday, which also includes two runway shows. So today I'm going to be talking about the programming part of Milwaukee Fashion Week, which, talking to the organizer, apparently that's a new feature of Milwaukee Fashion Week. My friend Barbara and I were talking to the woman who runs Milwaukee Fashion Week. Her name is Lauren. And she was asking us how we like the programming because this is the first year they've done it, in addition to the fashion shows. And I hope they do it again because it was awesome. I loved the programming. I thought there was a good range. There were some really interesting topics, and I hope they expand upon it next year. Okay, so the first night of Fashion Week was a panel discussion, which I did not attend, so I will jump right into the second day of Fashion Week, which was an event called Clips and Conversations: Identities, Narratives, and Cultural Impact of Costume Fashion Design. So this event was moderated by Gerard Blanks, and the speaker was Lynn Dixon Speller, who is the founder of Edessa Fashion School. Let me go into a bit of the recap of the day, and then I will show clips from the event, and I have a recap that I recorded after the event there about my thoughts. They showed like maybe 5 minutes of clips from different movies like Devil Wears Prada, Cruella, Black Panther, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Crazy Rich Asians. I can't even think of all of them. And then Lynn and Gerard would react to these clips. And in the meantime, there was a microphone where people could stand up and ask questions. Couple things I found funny and interesting that I forgot to include in my recap is Lynn apparently one time had lunch with Ruth Carter, who is the costume designer for Black Panther, among many other movies. But so I thought that was, Malcolm X, that was another one. I think Ruth Carter did the costumes for that one too. So she got to pick like Ruth Carter's brain, which is crazy awesome. But another thing is that Lynn had taken students to New York. This was after Devil Wears Prada. She's like, by the way, no one dresses like that in the Vogue offices. Lynn had taken students to New York from her fashion school, and they went to the Vogue offices expecting to see Devil Wears Prada, and like everyone was wearing black. They were wearing very fashionable, very nice, different silhouettes of black dresses or whatever, but they were all in black. It makes me think of Emily in Paris too. Like, do people actually dress like that in Paris advertising offices? I'm guessing not. I am guessing not. So that was kind of funny. And The Matrix. She kept referencing The Matrix. Like, it's sensationalist to get people excited about the movie, but there's no way if Trinity existed in real life, she would be like kicking ass in pleather, because pleather sticks to itself. Like, it just is not realistic. Anyway, let me just recap my day because it was kind of funny and I took some clips of myself getting ready. I came to that event straight from work. Just in case you need to know why that's going so fast. It's 98 degrees out, 93 degrees out. And I was changing my clothes and putting on makeup. From work, I went to Quick Trip, how very Wisconsin of me. Went to use their bathroom to change my clothes. So I changed my clothes in Quick Trip. It was like 80 degrees out at that point, and I was changing into like long sleeves and my Spanx leather leggings, faux leather leggings, which I said I was going to wear. I don't know, those ones are pretty stretchy. I probably could kick some ass in those. Okay, so I just stopped in, I don't have my makeup on yet, but I just stopped in Quick Trip near work to get changed. And the woman in there complimented my dress, the woman who was cashiering. So, hey, the dress has already been worth it. However, I'm wearing a different bra today, and it just looks like this chick has a big nose now. So, it is what it is. It's gonna be fine. And then after that, I still needed to do my makeup and eat my dinner. I had bought a sandwich at lunch that I was just gonna eat for dinner. So I parked, this event was at Radio Milwaukee. I wanted to find parking first and kind of get settled before I did my makeup and ate my sandwich. So I found parking right in front of the entrance door to Radio Milwaukee. So like guaranteed The organizers were standing right at that window watching, they weren't watching me. They were, I'm sure, very busy, but they could have watched me eat my sandwich and put my makeup on. So at one point I like put the sunscreen down and like over that window so they couldn't see what I was doing as I stuffed my face and put my makeup on. This is only slightly awkward, but I found front row parking. Like, the door's right there. I could throw something at it. Doors open in, I don't know, 20 some minutes, and I still got to do my makeup. So I'm going to do that just sitting here right next to the venue, do my makeup in the car, because that is how I roll. So I'll show you the reveal in a few minutes here, and eat my dinner. I have a sandwich here too. So it's gonna get real awkward real quick. So at about 5:15, I was combobulated enough, sent my daughter some pictures of me trying to do a cat eye, sharp enough to kill a man. If you know, you know. When I walked into Radio Milwaukee, I saw a couple people with Radio Milwaukee t-shirts right at the entrance. I'm like, hey, where do I check in? And they're like, oh, I don't know, people are just kind of milling about right now. So I went to the bathroom and then came out and stood by the group of fabulous looking people. And I figured if I stood there long enough, possibly someone would say hi. As it turns out, someone did. This really, really tall, way taller than me, beautiful woman with long white hair turned to me and said, hi, nice to meet you. My name is Julie. She is a volunteer for the event, and she's gonna be one of the models at Fashion Fest at Bayshore on Sunday. So that's really cool. We chatted for quite a while. I got this really awesome, I didn't know what to get. I was like looking at their wine selection, which wasn't super thrilling to me, and the bartender's like, we have a few specials tonight. I'm like, tell me. They had their own Manhattan, their own Paloma recipe, and then I think she said it was a margarita. It was pineapple and some sort of pepper, like jalapeno or something in a drink. And I'm like, yes, you're saying all the right things. Let's get that. So she served me this beautiful drink, which was so yummy. I headed outside to get some exterior footage because I hadn't done that yet. There was a man standing by the door, so I said hi to him and explained what I was doing. And he's like, oh, you're a YouTuber? That's so cool. Are you on Instagram? So we added each other on Instagram. He was from, I don't remember his name. Did I get your name? I'm really sorry. But he's from Hard Labor Entertainment. And then it was pretty much time for the event to start. So I'm gonna show you some of my highlights from the event and then my recap after the event.
New York, 1922.
When Shakespeare said clothes maketh the man, what he was really saying was that the way that you present yourself by adorning yourself, by costuming yourself every morning, speaks reams about who you are and about how you view your place in the world.
None of these names are official. This is just what we called them as shorthand when we were filming. Elvis Jobu. That's the explanation. Elvis Jobu exploding people's head into confetti because naturally, what would Elvis do?
No style or sense of fashion.
I think that depends on what you're...
No. That wasn't a question.
Let's start with Gatsby. I want to talk about Gatsby because I want you all to remember the only way that we've ever seen images of the 20s are in black and white. But for this, they had to create the opulence, the decadence, and make us feel it. And so costume design goes 10 times further than it needs to go. And one of the things you said before, costumes are made to be seen, garments are made to be worn. So you've got garments that are meant to be seen only being worn and acted in. So that means they're bigger than life, they're brighter than life, they're beyond what, people really had at that period of time. And they have to try to replicate the time period as much as possible with modern components. So they've got their work cut out for them.
So the Great Gatsby, for instance, people actually dress like that, right?
To a certain extent, depending on demographic, the money, the resources, it's You got to remember back then they didn't have a lot of dry cleaning, they didn't have a lot of care for garments, so garments would be worn over and over and over, they'd be kind of cruddy around the neck, they'd be dirty on the hem, and they'd still be considered the high-level, high-fashion garments that you've worn 15 times and probably have cleaned twice. So there's a lot of things that we would never accept as an audience in a real garment from that time.
So in one sense, it's replicating the past, but in another sense, it's also fantasy, right?
Yes, because the past needs to be elevated for us to enjoy it.
Made it more luxurious and more sumptuous, and we've introduced a modern color palette, but really trying to stick to the basic foundation of the 1813 silhouette.
Before Black Panther was even released in 2018, the fashion of the film sparked an obsession all over social media. The woman who lit the flame, creator and legendary costume designer Ruth E. Carter.
The scene where T'Challa is first going to face a challenge, seeing all of the different tribes of Wakanda on the side of this mountain, it still gives me chills just thinking about it.
Have the time or the budget. You know, I only had a month and a half to prep this movie, which is very short. They also mentioned, oh, it would be, you know, it would be great if you made costumes that, like, you know, during Halloween they would dress up, in, you know, as these characters, because you know you've made it when people are dressing up as characters from the movie. And I was like, okay, hopefully I can succeed with that, but I'll do my best. I don't know. And so when we had Halloween, there were so many people dressing up. I was like, okay, phew, thank God. You know, I succeeded. It's been a great win for the Asian community, you know, to have a movie with Asian leads being successful and so well received.
You know, so Black Panther, for instance, Ruth Carter, and all of them, I mean, I sat with Ruth Carter and had dinner at Hollander on Downer. Swear to God. I mean, it was the craziest thing ever. Had the amazing opportunity to do that. And one of the things she discussed was that she went to Africa, she saw all these cultures. She had years to prepare for that movie. She saw all these cultures, and she couldn't pick one. So she picked them all. And she took them and merged them in a way that it was not insulting to the continent of Africa. Because, you know, we always get, oh, you look African. Yeah, which country? And so you never heard any articles about Ruth Carter just insulted all Africans. By, you know, the same as we do Native Americans, we just stick a headdress on somebody and not consider the culture.
Right, when we're talking about Afrofuturism, the idea of being able to step out of the conditions of today, right, and think of a world in which we are powerful, right, and we are respected. And so much of what we do, particularly as African Americans, is we look backwards. And that idea of looking forward to the future.
Let me give you 2 seconds of History of Costume 101. Everything is built on silhouettes. The shape of the garment. You put the garment in front of a window, you turn the lights off, and let the sun come behind and you see the shape. That's what tells you within a 10-year period what year that garment was from. So they hinted to do the right thing. Do the right thing. One of the things I want to talk about is how movies affect fashion. And typically, they don't. Very few do. And that was one that did. Kenai came out after that, cross colors. There were a lot of things that we were given access to after we learned we could dress like that and still be respected. That's part of the problem. When you look at Malcolm X, you look at Selma, people of color back then had to overdress because we weren't respected when we walked into a room. It's like, oh, what are you doing here? So you had to be in a suit, be in a tie, have your shoes shined, have your shirt white, have it crisp. These were unspoken parameters based on trying to garner respect. So then you do the right thing, and we get to wear a cross-color shirt, and it's, you know, it's got red, black, and green on it, and is expressing our heritage, and I can still go in the bank and they don't think I'm gonna rob it. I mean, that is steps ahead, and Do the Right Thing kind of gave us that. However, there are movies like Matrix, which are considered to be future, but first of all those garments could have been bought in the store at that time. They had just never been put together like that. But I'm not fighting someone for my life in a coat that is to the floor, wrapping around my legs while and my glasses have to stay on. You know, we've all seen a fight. That doesn't happen. And it's unrealistic, and it's not futuristic. It went straight from movie to Halloween costume. And that's where you've lost respect for the garments. It's sensational, it's awesome, we love it, our kids loved it. But it went straight from costume to Halloween costume. Trinity in the movie is wearing pleather. Pleather sticks to itself. So all that stuff she was doing couldn't really be done in real life walking around in pleather. Well, Sex and the City just made us wear our underwear on the outside. I mean, seriously, it allowed us, I'm glad you brought that up, because Sex and the City changed the rules. And growing up, I would never let you see my bra. But she's like wearing it on the freaking outside, and Patricia Fields made us know we don't have to match. Our clothes don't have to match. I don't have to fit your idea of what's appropriate to wear to this event. And it makes me a spectacle if I show up the way Carrie used to show up. And you notice each of the characters in that had a different dress habit. Streetwear, however, was elevating casual clothing and elevating it to the level that it's still luxury and elegant. And although all those things don't match, but streetwear has brought them all together and created a genre that didn't exist before. Genres are created every day, and that's one. Streetwear is where you took casual clothing and brought it into luxury wear.
Fashion has always been political for Black people.
Black culture, Black fashion, Black bodies is always cool as long as it's not on Black people.
It's all the same landscape of African Americans that wanted to express pain, express creativity that's on the inside, and we have to pour it somewhere. And so hip hop became the somewhere for our culture.
Hip hop is the first platform ever that we've been able to make real progress with globally.
Misa Hilton came along and really upped the ante. She took traditional fashion looks and she gave it that Black edge.
Women in hip-hop fashion don't always get the respect that we deserve, and we've always been there from the beginning.
Hidden Figures and Carmen. So Carmen and the other movie allowed us to see Blacks not as we had always been seen or stereotypically been seen. It allowed us to, Hidden Figures, it allowed us to be seen in roles and areas. The Carmen, they're singing opera. They're singing it in English, but they're singing opera. In Hidden Figures, you've got women elevating themselves by appearance, pantyhose, well, not pantyhose, back then stockings, I'm sorry, pumps, the formal dresses, going to work all dolled up like that and having your hair, your edges had to be clean. I mean, everything, and still not getting ahead just because they have skin of a certain hue. So they wouldn't have gotten that far in that time period had they not gone through all that effort. But, the movie displays, they've done all they can do. Girlfriend's going to night classes, she's sitting at the front of the room, she's doing everything she can do and still can't get there unless time changes, unless habits change, unless culture changes. So it is a good way of depicting that, how in certain genres and time periods, we did the work. And, unless something changed, it didn't matter. So in my opinion, timelessness is determined by there are elements that are not so much of a monstrosity that they take the garment out of a genre. So for instance, if you look at Cruella, it's supposed to be the 70s, but is it really? Because the fashion in it could be the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, and could be the 2000s. That's timelessness. It's like we could pluck anything from that movie and wear it now, and it's fine. And you could find your grandmother in a picture wearing the same thing, and it's fine. That's timelessness. One of the things we teach at Edessa School of Fashion is psychology of dress, and this speaks to that specifically. Psychology of dress is dividing people up into demographics and groups of people, and knowing that they all can be identified as those groups of people by the way they dress, but yet they're all trying to be different. Goth people, punk people, rock people, hip-hop people, preppy people, suit and tie business people. All of them are divided in genre. We almost even size people up by their appearance and which genre, hipsters, which genre we consider those people to be from based on their appearance and their appearance only. And then we judge them. And then we judge them by that. And those are the ways we determine who people think they are and who they're trying to be.
One final question for you.
Okay.
Do you ever go to a film and just sit back and just not study the angles, right? Do you just enjoy the film? And do people like going to see movies with you?
I'm all into it until something like that happens. And then I'm like, I'm over it. And I'm looking at my husband like, we really need to go now. But he's like, I'm really watching this. But it's because he's not really seeing it. But and they're going through all this. They've gotten somebody who's not qualified to do the work. That's what it is. It's someone who can sew, someone who can create garments, but someone doesn't know. Google is not a research tool. It's not. Education is. Don't give me a garment that stretch in 1813. It's like, I've watched Bridgerton, I loved it, but I just saw that. And had a little moment where I said, okay, get over it, move on. You still got to talk to the people, but it was like, that was costume gloves that you can get on Amazon for $5 in Bridgerton. I mean, come on. I'm done.
Okay, first of all, this lighting is whack. We've got some like Edison style light bulb up here, which is very cool, but that's what's lighting my face right now. So, listen. We're just gonna work with what we got. Okay, so I want to share some quick takeaways from the clips and conversations before I pack it up and leave, because it was just so good. First of all, I love like discussions like this and learning about fashion and costume design. This talk was run by Lynn of Edessa Fashion School. So she teaches fashion, she teaches costume design, she is a designer herself and teaches how to become designers. That's very cool. She is so knowledgeable about everything fashion. Obviously movies are not always going to be completely historically accurate, right? The costuming is not going to be always historically accurate. There is going to be exaggerations to make you care about what you're seeing. That was one of my takeaways. It's like, obviously, Bridgerton's a really good example. They didn't have that colorful things in Bridgerton. And she was talking about Gatsby, how like, stuff's gonna get dirty and sweaty, and they don't show that in movies and stuff like that. But there was also a lot of talk of Black history and how different movies have impacted how Black people are perceived and how they were given the freedom to dress a certain way, like how streetwear came to be. Streetwear is like the luxury version of casual clothes. It was just really cool to hear a different perspective and to get out of my suburb, and hear about other people's perspectives. So that's always so refreshing, especially when they're just so positive and so knowledgeable and everything. Another thing she touched on is silhouettes. You can tell a time period if you put it against a just lit background and all you see is a silhouette. You're able to tell what the time period is. So on the flip side of that, someone asked a question, how can you tell if something is timeless? well if it doesn't have any exaggerated things that would make it, she called it monstrosities, any monstrosities. But there are no exaggerated pieces that would make you think of that time period, such as giant shoulders in the 80s or like huge bell bottoms of like the 70s, stuff like that, or like big ball. Like you could tell what time period is based on like if it's a huge ballroom skirt or if it's like an empire waist. You could tell it's like Regency. So silhouettes are an indicator of time period, and even today it's like a skinny jean. You could tell it's like the early 2010s. There's a step and repeat here like they mentioned. I got a little modeling lesson from one of the models who's going to be walking later in the week. She was delightful. When I was younger, I thought I wanted to be a model, but never a print model ever. Runway model, yes. Print model, no. So I had a great time at night 2 of Milwaukee Fashion Week, and I cannot wait for night 3 and the rest of the week. So I will see you for the next adventure. That was Tuesday. I was so jazzed. After that event, I like drove home feeling more comfortable because I was a little nervous going into this one because I'm like, well, I don't, what if the settings on my camera aren't right? What if the sound's not right? But it turned out, what if like I have nobody to talk to? And it turned out fine. Like I really enjoyed sitting in that room and hearing Lynn talk and just learning stuff about something I'm really interested in and doing it with a lot of really cool people. And I was completely at ease about the next day because the next day I was not picked to do media for that event, so I could just relax and take it all in. So that was my plan. I was not even going to bring this camera to the Wednesday masterclass about personal styling with Rose Styles. So Wednesday again, I went to work in my work clothes and then decided to change after work. So this time Barbara was joining me for the other masterclass that was going on at the time, which was about modeling, posing, styling, creative direction, stuff like that, and how those all meld together and work together. So Barbara and I met, well, we worked together. So we went from work to the Milwaukee Public Market to get some dinner. We ate our food, and then I'm like, I gotta run to the bathroom and change and put my makeup on. So I did that. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so for Wednesday, I had planned to wear my Ralph Lauren jumpsuit from 5th Main. The only problem is the straps were too long. So I waited until pretty much the last moment to alter those straps. I was altering that jumpsuit in the lunchroom at work with like people at tables around me and people at my own table. And it was fine, and I kind of just guessed. So I had a needle and thread. It wasn't the same color thread as the fabric. It was black thread, as it turns out. But yeah, I just folded the straps over and kind of sewed them to the back with a bunch of little stitches. Eyeballed it, did it to the other side, and I'm like, okay, it is what it is. They'll be shorter, and that's what I need. So I was a little nervous when I was putting it on at the public market, but it was perfect. From there, we walked back to the car so I could put my heels on. I did not want to walk too far in those heels. And it was still hot out that day. It was like probably still low 80s. So we carried our blazers. We both had black blazers. First, we were greeted by Lauren and another woman at the check-in desk, and they welcomed us, took our names, and then sent us to this other room, this gallery that was the welcome area. And this is where I would have expected to see the step and repeat, but it was just an empty room with a bunch of chairs set up where that was like the holding area. We went to our classrooms. Barbara went to her classroom, I went to mine, and I sat in the front row. Going to concerts, my nickname is Front Row Beck because I do not like not being in the front at concerts, but at school, that is not the case. In class, I have a very specific spot that I like to sit, and that is on the side, halfway back. In my opinion, it is the most inconspicuous spot that you can sit in a classroom. However, I wanted to learn and I wanted to make sure to ask questions, so I sat in the front on the far left side. The class was great. Ro had a rack of clothing set up and a bunch of accessories behind her and a PowerPoint. We filled out this worksheet for defining our style. I mean, I have done this exercise before, so I kind of knew what my style words were. I did the video when I turned 40 about redefining my style or finding my style in my 40s. So I pretty much picked the exact words and expanded upon the ones I picked out there. So it was basically 70s, European, and like fun and colorful. But then to take it one step further, you define our style aspiration, which I also kind of went through in that video about finding my style in my 40s. And words I was striving for was to be powerful, alluring, kind of mysterious. Like I want to walk in a room and look like I own the room. Look like I have the confidence to own the room. Even when I don't feel confident, I want to look like I feel confident. You know what I'm saying? So be bold, you know. In my aspirational wardrobe, I am always wearing like a really badass, brightly colored suit. That's my aspirational wardrobe. And then the next category was finding your secret sauce. So, by the way, I didn't take a video of this session, that's why I'm kind of going through it a little bit. So the question was, what is unique to you? What makes you different from others? And I think this was probably the hardest question. What makes me different from others around me is I'm very curious and open-minded. So I'm like willing to try the weird. I like the weird but good. I didn't think of weird but good yesterday, but weird but good is kind of a thing. Like, I'm not afraid of stepping, like toeing outside of my comfort zone when it comes to style. And the other thing I thought of is like quiet leadership, which kind of went into the powerful kind of thing. Like, I'm not going to be a very verbose leader, but in certain circles, people do look to me as a leader. And then the last thing was to identify your style icons, which I think I've mentioned in other videos too. Blair Eady comes to mind. This stylist called Chrissy Russell. I love her. She's from Canada. I love her style. And Sylvia from Emily in Paris. Oh, I forgot the first part of the exercise. The very first part was, who are you? How do you describe yourself, and how do others describe you? So that was kind of the icebreaker to get your mindset into that kind of thing. If you care, I guess I'll read my words. I put goofy, smart, polite. That was something someone told me once, that I was polite, and it's kind of stuck with me. Open-minded, fun, enthusiastic. I'm so enthusiastic about everything. Nerdy, and fancy. So those were the words I came up with to describe myself. And then we didn't fill this box in, but there's also a box for lifestyle categories. That was a slide too, because when you're finding your style, you need to find clothing that works for your life, which is why, by the way, I don't own any of my aspirational style things like a brightly colored suit. Maybe someday, but that does not really fit my current lifestyle. Okay, so then it was tips on shopping your own wardrobe. So I had taken a picture of this slide, and then she's like, you flip your sheet over. This is on the take-home sheet. So cool, here's the shopping your wardrobe. These are the things you ask yourself when you are going through the clothing in your wardrobe. Does this piece fit my style personality, which you have established on the other side? Would I buy it again? Do I feel good when I wear it? Does it fit properly? Is it in good condition? So those are the questions you can ask yourself. Does it fit properly? A little triggering for someone who fluctuates weight a lot, but I was gonna ask about that, but I'm like, I know the answer. It's just, I don't like the answer. So that's how to determine if you get rid of stuff, if you keep stuff or get rid of stuff. I know I've touched on some of this in like previous closet cleanouts episodes and stuff like that, but tips like these are always a good refresher. Oh, this is cool. I liked this slide. This had some really good tips. Tips on styling outfits. I really liked this one. Plan ahead. I almost never pick out my outfits the day of anymore, because it was always just too stressful. I get up really early in the morning, and I don't like to like bang around. My husband's trying to sleep, but I almost always pick out my outfit for the next day, if it's a work day, the night before, because that's one less thing I have to worry about in the morning when I'm trying to get out the door. Balance proportions. I feel like this is optional. This is really dependent on your body type and your style, especially now when everything is oversized. If you're into the oversized thing, balancing proportions is not as important, but if you're trying to flatter your figure, balancing proportions is obviously the best way to do that. Add a layer. In the What Not to Wear days, they called this a completer piece. They called it a completer piece in the What Not to Wear days. This is usually a blazer, cardigan, scarf, another shirt, you know, like a button-up shirt over a tank top, things like that. Tuck, cuff, zhuzh. Like, she showed a lot of examples of the wearing versus styling, like wearing a shirt and jeans. Well, you could tuck in the jean, you could roll up the cuff of like a button-up shirt, you could tuck one side in, you could cuff your jeans, add 3 accessories. Do I have 3 on today? I have the belt. Wedding ring doesn't count. I guess 2 rings count. Sure. Shoes don't. Shoes are an essential. So I could probably use a necklace with this outfit. Or maybe some more rings. I'm gonna count it because I have 2 rings on that aren't my wedding ring. Try different shoes. This reminded me of the wrong shoe video that I did where I had 5 different shoes and 5 different outfit variations and tried each permutation of the other one to come up with completely different looks just from changing the shoes. Don't forget hair and makeup. Any hair and makeup can make any outfit look intentional. If you're going out in sweats and you've done your hair and makeup, it's an outfit. And start a lookbook. That was the last tip. So take pictures. If you have an outfit you really liked, take a picture of it, which I do already. So that was a really good tip and I totally agree. The other cool thing she did during the session is like she had the rack of clothes. She asked 2 volunteers to come up and make outfits based on their 3 style words. So it was really cool. She picked women with 2 very different styles and it was really cool to see what they came up with. I asked the question at the end, what advice would you give to a personal stylist starting out? She said, and by the way, this works for pretty much anyone starting a business, give your services away for free at first. Offer your services to everyone. You can get testimonials, you can get feedback during that. I have done that, so that's good. I was on the right track when I first started out. Like, I offered my services to a lot of authors in the beginning. Friends, I have my friends in previous episodes where I'm styling them. And she also said sometimes established stylists take on newer stylists as assistants, like you can kind of shadow, like job shadowing. That's a really excellent thing for any industry, anyone starting out. To job shadow is a great suggestion. And then her friend, who is a stylist from Chicago, Rachel, said, and I happen to set up a panel discussion with expert stylists that's going on during Chicago Fashion Week next month, and you should come. I'm like, I will try to make that work. So, spoiler alert, I did make it work, and I'm going to the Style Symposium next month for stylists to get some advice. So that will be an upcoming YouTube video along with some other Chicago Fashion Week events I'm gonna hit up while I'm down there. So very excited about that. Got to talk to Ro after the event for a short while. She said, let's connect to have coffee. So I shot her a message on Instagram and hopefully I'll get to meet up with her and just talk style and pick her brain and stuff like that. We have somewhat similar styles, which is cool. Like, she's into the 70s look. She's into small tops tucked into big pants, which is I'm all about these days. So I'm really excited to get to know more stylists better. And I was just on a complete high after that. I met up with Barbara again, who was finishing up her photography session. When I walked into that room, there was like a big white backdrop, all lit, and the models or aspiring models who were there were modeling, and the photographers or aspiring photographers and creative directors were in the back taking pictures or directing the poses. So it was cool to see. It was cool to be kind of auditing the class from the back. Barbara said goodbye to some of the people in the class, and one of them I think was a designer possibly, and she's like, I love your necklace. I want it for my show for the high fashion night. I'm like, you can have it. I will lend it to you, but hopefully we can connect and I can lend her my necklace, because that'd be really cool to see my necklace on the runway. On the way out, I wanted a good place to get pictures because they didn't have a step and repeat at this one. So Barbara and I popped into one of the sewing rooms where all the dress forms were set up against the wall. So I did some posing in there, got some pictures with my outfit, and then we headed out. And I just have to say, I love walking around Milwaukee. It's just such a cool area. Super jazzed with the programming and super jazzed to see in the coming days the fashion of Milwaukee. That was what I had from the 2 programming days I attended. And next week I will tell you, you will see footage, and I will go into the 2 fashion shows I attended, the High Fashion one and the Fashion Fest ones, and I'm excited. I'm excited to do them. If you're watching this on Sunday, right when I post this, there's still time to get to Bayshore to Fashion Fest, so go right now. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like. Consider subscribing and turning on those post notifications so you can be alerted right when I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching Bedecked in the Burbs, and I hope you tune in for the Fashion Week content and whatever content I decide to deck out next. Bye!